there is suddenly a lot of conversation about Bitcoin from politicians and diplomats, and there is more interest. And I worry a little bit about becoming too excited about that and so excited that we build a dependency on it, because Bitcoin does not need that dependency. Bitcoin's whole thesis is removing single points of failure. And if we end up becoming dependent upon a president or a governor or a senator or a Congress or a body of government generally to again give us permission, we lost.
In this recent interview on Bitcoin Park with Jack Dorsey, we learn about the importance of open source platforms and Bitcoin. At the time of this discussion, Bitcoin is trading around $66,000, with a 2% decrease change in the last 24 hours and 6% increase change in the last 30 days, with 19.73 million Bitcoins in circulation out of 21 million. Dorsey emphasizes the critical role of open-source software in fostering innovation and trust within the cryptocurrency ecosystem. He highlights how recent events, such as the regional bank crisis and the Crowdstrike outage, have underscored Bitcoin's unique attributes, including its lack of counterparty risk and robust, decentralized nature. Dorsey argues that these characteristics position Bitcoin as a hedge against traditional financial system vulnerabilities. Before we dive into this discussion, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this channel. Now let's hear more from Jack Dorsey.
It's over. And it feels like we're kind of racing towards that right now with all the noise in the conversation. And I don't know if we're aware of the counterfactuals there and just like the potential attacks using that. And I imagine we'll see some significant positives, and we'll see a lot of broken promises, and we'll see a lot of bait and switches. And if we end in a world where like everyone's disappointed and just give up on the thing because like my chosen person didn't deliver, like Bitcoin loses. So we need to continue to find the people who are here for the principles and here for the origin and here for what was written in that original Genesis block and the problem identified and the solution delivered. If we forget that, we've lost, and I think society has lost globally. Just on the policy stuff, like to me, like we've had a win in the legal space, and it's going to take some time to for adversaries to build up different attacks. But I know they're coming. But the regulatory and policy stuff is real. And to Matt's point, like I think the way we have these conversations with policymakers and regulators is to point out the real threats versus the perceived and fake threats, and try to disarm the conversation as much as possible, and just play a little bit of game theory. Like you look at the U.S. dollar versus the yuan and everything that BRICS is doing. Why would you not want to build or help support an open alternative, to have a third horse in the race versus having A versus B? Like it's just simple math in terms of optionality and the flexibility you get as a government, as a country, defending your citizens. And I do agree with Matt that it is a national security risk. And we haven't had any mention of AI. But a lot of, like, we've talked about money, we've talked a little bit about speech with Nostr. We haven't talked about intelligence. And intelligence is probably one of the largest horizons within that. And there is a growing open source approach towards AI, but it's very small right now, and it's way behind. And I imagine it'll catch up, but it's entirely dependent and blocked on resources and actually lack of resources.
As we just heard Jack Dorsey discuss open source technology, Dorsey emphasizes that Bitcoin's open source nature contributes significantly to its resilience and trustworthiness. He points out that unlike closed source systems, which can be vulnerable to single points of failure or manipulation, Bitcoin's transparent codebase allows for continuous scrutiny and improvement by a global community of developers. Dorsey argues that these qualities make Bitcoin an increasingly attractive option for investors seeking to diversify their portfolios and hedge against economic uncertainties. Now, let's listen to what Jack Dorsey has to say on Bitcoin Park.
Back to the question on why open source. I don't know of a faster way to spread an idea than open source. In its very nature, the fact that anyone can read the code, anyone can build on top of the code, anyone can own the code and completely change it, build their own system. And we've proven this over and over and over again. The internet exists because of open source. Every single device you encounter and interact with every day is built on open source. You have open source in your pocket. This call is made possible by open source. Now, all the companies utilizing it might not appreciate that, might not advertise that, definitely benefit from it massively, may not give back enough from everything that they've taken to make their product useful to people. But everything we do in this world today is at the result of some programmer wanting to learn something, being gracious enough to give it away for free in order to learn more and to learn faster and to spread an idea. And I just don't, there's no other development model that I've seen that allows such a velocity as open source. The second thing is we're talking a lot about permissionless technologies. Matt calls them freedom technologies. I'm going to focus on permission. A lot of the interactions we have in this world, we require permission from the government, from a corporation, from ourselves, maybe, in order to speak in the way that we want or act in the way that we want. But if we're going to build permissionless technologies, we need a permissionless development model. And open source is the only way to do that. You don't need anyone's permission to take the code, to change the code, to add code to it, to remove code, to build a completely separate project and distribute it to people. And I think that parallel is really important. Like, you just can't build permissionless technologies, no matter how hard you try to prove them or advertise them as such, without having permissionless development models. And then the third that I also think is critical and has been mentioned is the ownership aspect. The fact that this is not just open software, not just transparent that you can read the code, but it's normally free as well. And in many cases, that's without license, with very creative licensees to create derivative works and even build companies around those derivative works. It's not always consistent, but the fact that we have a legal structure around ownership for this free and open software is really important, really critical, and should also be defended. And it's been under attack recently. The recent Craig Wright shenanigans that we just defeated was an attack not on Bitcoin, it was an attack on the open source development model. Like, all of open source development model was at risk if he won those cases. And there will be more attacks. That's not it. There will be more sophisticated adversaries. And, as we continue this discussion, it's not just about funding open source developers, but all the mechanics and the infrastructure around that, including legal defense, including policy and regulatory pushback for people who are not, who hate this stuff. They don't want to do it with anything legal. They don't want to do it with anything having to do with policy or regulatory. So much so that we've had a number of, and Mike can speak to this, we've had a number of developers leave Bitcoin development entirely for the fear of being sued, or in the worst case, having some other penalty put upon them. So as we think about open source and what it takes to fund it in a way that these developers feel independent, like, I think it's also important to consider all the infrastructure around them and where the gaps are. And that's what concerns me the most moving forward is those gaps, because because you can't attack the model, because it is so permissionless and free, you're going to attack where the model intersects with society and where it intersects with the law. And that's where we haven't done enough work to really define the defenses that folks need to continue this work. And if we don't figure it out, then again, the open source development model is under attack, and something that could not go away technically, but go away because no one wants to work on it because they don't want to take the risk. And that's super scary. And like we're seeing more and more of those adversaries as we go on year by year.
To watch the full interview, check out the link in the description. Jack Dorsey provides valuable insights into the transformative potential of Bitcoin and open source technology in reshaping the financial landscape. He emphasizes the importance of supporting open source development and highlights Bitcoin's unique attributes that make it a powerful tool for financial freedom and innovation. We would love to hear your thoughts on some questions. How do you think the rise of open source technologies like Bitcoin will impact traditional financial institutions in the long term? What role do you believe individual investors can play in supporting and advancing open source projects in the cryptocurrency space? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to help spread awareness about these important topics in the world of cryptocurrency and finance.